If you're watching this, chances are you're like I was for most of my life, someone who finds the idea of God either unlikely, unnecessary, or just plain unconvincing. Maybe you've been hurt by religion. Maybe you're a science minded person who sees faith as wishful thinking. Or maybe you're just honestly unsure. Hey, I get it. I was there for 45 plus years. I'm not here to preach, convert, or convince you of anything. I'm here to share something unexpected that happened to a lifelong skeptic, me, and let you decide what to make of it. I was just another skeptical engineer for 35 years. I worked as an electronic design engineer with 2 patents to my name, and in design engineering, you live or die by evidence. You make critical decisions with incomplete data, and you have to be brutally honest about what's actually true versus what you want to be true. That same analytical approach led me to atheism, and eventually it led me away from it. This isn't about blind faith or emotional manipulation. It's about following evidence wherever it leads, even if it challenges everything you thought you knew. Let me start with a question that changed everything for me. What if the God most people reject isn't actually the God that might exist? Think about it. Most of us reject a version of God that sounds something demanding or distant or coercive, a cosmic dictator of sorts, rules by fear and insists on unquestioning belief and honesty. And if that's what God is, I'd reject that too. But what if that's a caricature of what God is not? What if the real question isn't whether an all powerful tyrant exists, but whether love itself might be fundamental to reality? Now, stay with me. I know that sounds soft, but I'm talking about something that's much more profound than sentiment. My unlikely journey from certainty to questions to this. For the first 45 years of my life, I had zero reason to believe in God. My family wasn't religious. I went to church only because the woman I eventually married, 56 years and counting, went there. Even when I prayed under enemy fire in Vietnam, it felt more like human instinct than genuine belief. Engineering school cemented my materialism. Everything that mattered could be measured, calculated, predicted. The idea of a non material, all powerful being seemed like wishful thinking at best. I told my wife, honestly, I'm glad faith works for you. I just don't see it. I didn't think I could ever believe. And I didn't for 25 years. Then reality got weird. When science opened the doors I thought were closed. After retirement, I finally had time to explore questions I'd been avoiding, but instead of just reading theology, I dove into something unexpected: quantum physics. MIT puts their physics courses online, and what I discovered there shook my materialist worldview to its core. At the quantum level, the fundamental layer of reality, nothing is actually material in the way we think. Reality is made of fields, forces, and relationships don't truly understand. As I recently asked ChatGPT, is anything material at the quantum level? The answer was revealing. At the quantum level, reality is not made of material objects. Material objects are what reality looks like when quantum processes stabilize, which means somebody observes it. This didn't prove God exists, but it demolished my assumption that only material things can be real. If reality itself isn't fundamentally non material and deeply mysterious, then the idea of God suddenly seemed possible. Then I encountered something I couldn't explain. Enter the Shroud of Turin. Back in the 1980s, when I was still an atheist, carbon dating seemed to prove it was a medieval fake. Case closed. But in 2017, when the original test data was finally released, problems emerged. In 2018, analysis showed the tested sample came from a medieval patch, not the original cloth. Recent testing suggests a first century date. So I took another look, and what I found was unsettling. It's a photographic negative on linen. Centuries before photography existed, it contains 3D information encoded in ways no artist could achieve. There are no pigments or brushstrokes, just mysterious fiber discoloration. The wounds match Roman crucifixion practices with forensic accuracy. No known process explains how the image was created. And after years of research, I reached a conclusion that surprised me. I believe this is the authentic burial cloth of Jesus. And if I'm right, the implications are staggering. If the shroud is real, consider what it suggests. 1. God anticipated our skepticism. He didn't just leave us ancient stories. He left physical evidence of a scientific age for a scientific age. 2. God understands doubt. It isn't proof that forces belief. It's a puzzle that invites investigation. 3. The message isn't about power. It's about love. The image isn't a triumphant deity. It's of someone who suffered, who chose to enter human pain rather than remain safely distant. Why this matters? Even if you're not convinced, here's what fascinates me. If God exists and left the shroud intentionally, the message seems to be, I was here. I know you're suffering. I chose to experience it with you, and you're not alone. That's not a God most skeptics reject. That's a cosmic that's not a cosmic tyrant demanding submission. That's something else entirely. Something that looks suspiciously like love, willing to be wounded. And where I've landed and where you might go, I don't expect you to believe what I believe, but honest doubt is valuable. But after 30 years of following evidence wherever it led, here's where I am. The possibility of God, specifically a God defined by love rather than power, makes more sense of reality than pure materialism does. Not because I need it to be true, but because the evidence points that way. Whether you're atheist, agnostic, or just questioning, I'd encourage you to keep following your questions. Don't settle for easy answers, whether they come from religious or secular materialism. Reality is stranger, more mysterious, and potentially more meaningful than either side often admits. What's next? If this resonates with you at all, I'd love to continue the conversation. My next video will tackle the biggest objection to belief. Why would an all-powerful, loving God allow suffering? It's a question I wrestled with for decades, and I think the answer might surprise you. Subscribe if you want more honest conversations about faith, doubt, and evidence from someone who's been on both sides of the question. Leave a comment and let me know what interests you. Whatever you believe right now, keep questioning. Truth can handle your doubts.